All right, YouTube. Whew. I've been down for a week. I don't know if it's Corona or what it was, but it had me down for a week. Just finally getting back out in the garage. My throat still hurts a little bit. It's awesome. It's like every time I upload a video, we get two to three subscribers. Sometimes the subscribers go up and then they come back down. I guess people don't like the channel after they watch it a little bit or whatever. But that's awesome. That's cool. Like, share, subscribe, notification bell, and comment below on what we're doing. If you think we're doing it right, wrong, how you would do it, whatever comment you put. What we're going to do today is we're going to get in here. We're going to grind and cut and clean up the frame so we can get in here and plate it. So I got the plasma torch. We're going to finish cutting off a bunch of these brackets so we don't have to grind as much on both sides. And then once we get that, stick around or fast forward, whatever you want to do, to the end of this video or to the end of all the grinding. And I'm going to explain my laser and chalk line setup a little bit better, because that last video I just posted, I was all over the place, and it wasn't for the lack of trying. That's where some of the video went missing. It's like the camera turned off. Some of the videos, they didn't save correctly, they corrupted, and that's why it seemed to jump around in my explanation on what we were going to do and what we were doing. So we're going to explain that a little bit better at the end of this video, because after we get all this cut and the truck's not moving and shaking, we think it's in the final spot, we're going to get into laying out our wheelbase and spring location using the chalk and the lasers. So that's what we're going to get it. Let's get into this. Cut out a bunch of all this other stuff, you know, what was left over from the first time we torched it out. There's a lot of stuff I didn't torch, try to get in here too close. Like there's another big bracket that goes up underneath, which like I said earlier is because of the fuel lines. So now I'm just going to come in here and we're just going to grind all this smooth, and then we're going to determine where our coil bucket goes, because as I said earlier in the other video, that the coil bucket does not sit center of the axle, so it's got to go forward. So I think my axle is going to be right in here, but my coil bucket's going to be right here, and that's where all of our chalk lines and measurements going to come in here in a little bit. But what we got to do is going to take a grinder, grind all this out, and then we'll come back and start laying lines on the floor.
Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe There's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need, what you need. We're broken, it's tragic, we're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic, believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
All right, there you go. We're all grind down. First round of grinding. I'm gonna have to come in and make a plate, fill this in, and maybe weld up some of these other holes. Plasma torch got a little carried away right there. We'll have to weld those cracks and weld that up. But with our bracket, I'm liking so far how to slide in there right there. We'll be able to weld these holes, and then when I put that plate in there, weld it through that hole, and then weld it across the bottom. But it looks, you know, it all determines on where this spring's going to go. If I have to go forward and cut the bracket out to where it'll slide back within there, or if I have to go backwards with it. But right now, the fitment's pretty nice. Fits right up in there flat against the frame already. 2 spots, and then if I fill that spot in back here, and if anything else, I can put a bracket on here, make the plate this all the way across, and then fill this in and see how it goes that way. But I still don't know if we have to come in or out with it either, because I got to find the center of this with the center of the axle when we slide it in there to see if this coal bucket is going to line up forward and back or in and out. Hopefully it doesn't have to go in. If it does, we'll have to figure that one out. If it does, we might have to cut the frame out, set this in there, and then weld it. But that'd be a pain in the butt because you might have to pull the motor out so I can weld on the backside. But we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't go to a motor pool. But I'm liking it so far. Stamped steel brackets, both sides. I think I got them both under $100 or right at $100. A little over. Alright, well here we are back. I'm going to explain the laser setup a little better. First thing is that this is ride height. And the reason why this is ride height and it's so close to the ground is that the fact that the axle and the springs are supporting the weight of the truck. Now we got all this stuff on the back of the truck to simulate the truck bed being on here, axle, you know, our link brackets and all the parts to build the truck. So it kind of squats the truck and makes it the truck set level across here with what we want. So even though this is going to be up here when we actually put our wheels and tires on it, this is ride height because of the weight is supported on jack stands. So what that does, that allows me to keep the truck low on the ground with the small jack stands I got to set my ride height. Now, if I had taller jack stands, I would come in here and raise this up to where if we're going to run 35s, half of 35 would be the center of our axle going this way. But I don't have tall jack stands. When I say this is ride height, that's what I'm talking about, is because it's sitting on jack stands, not that it's actually the height that it's going to be riding when I have my tires. All right, so what we do with the laser is, as you can see, the laser is the center of the axle this way. It's up and down. Don't worry about this. Let me take that one out. We're not worried about front to back yet. So this is center of the axle. going up and down. So what I do is I'll mark the floor right across the laser. If you look at my laser, it goes all the way to the floor. So we'll mark the floor right on the laser with the red line. Now what we're going to do, we'll go to the other side and center it with the axle and mark the floor. Now, some of you might be like, well, why don't you just go over and find the other end of the laser and mark it over there? Well, because the laser, if you watch, I can turn it, and even though it's away from the center, if I accidentally moved it over like this to center it, it's going to be center here, and it'll be on my line, but it's going at that angle across the floor. So to make sure that you're straight across, your best is to center it on the axle on one side, mark your floor, go center it on the axle on the other side. And that's why you snap the chalk line across the floor, is because then the chalk line, you lay the chalk line on this mark and the chalk line on that mark, and it's straight underneath the axle. You got to watch your angle of the laser, because you know, you might be a 1/4 inch here, and by the time you get to the other side, it's almost a foot off going the other direction. So you can't just go over there and mark the other side with the laser on the floor. That's why you put a mark here, go over there and put a mark, and then you snap your chalk line across. So you'll have that nice chalk line across, and then you take your clear paint and you paint across it, which we've tried to rub it off the blue line earlier and it won't come up. Like, we've been sweeping on it with the broom, and it's still there because of the clear coat that's got it covered up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to jump to the other side, laser that one, put our chalk line down, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to do the front side. All right, now we got our chalk line snapped from one side to the other and clear coated. Won't come up. Still a little tacky. We tried to use a hairdryer to dry it, but now since it's side to side, we know it's square with the axle, the rear axle. Now we can measure forward our 109 inches and make marks on the floor up there, and then we'll do the same thing. Go across 109 inches on both sides, snap another chalk line, and what that does, that'll keep, now we're square on the floor and across off of the rear axle. Now we got the center line done the other day. Now we're square, we'll be square off the center line of the axle, so it's 109 inches on this side, 109 inches on that side, and snap another chalk line, cover it up. Now turn around here, Kyle. When we do our line across, we also got to compensate, because remember, 109 inches is the wheelbase, what we're going for. Come up here, Kyle. And 109 is the center of the axle. Can you see that? 109 is the center of the axle. So remember, our coils buckets are not center of the axle. So we'll have 109 on the floor for our center line of the axle, which will give our wheelbase. But then we have to move our coil buckets forward from this measurement to this measurement. We haven't figured that out yet, which is what we'll end up doing. And what I think I'm going to do is just get the 109 on the floor so we can get our wheelbase, and then I'm going to take plumb bobs and go from here up to the frame, and then I can mark on the frame where the center of this is, so I can center my coil bucket on that using plumb bobs. Lasers, plumb bobs, you know, squares, there's all kinds of stuff you can use to make sure that you get straight. It depends on what you want to do and what you want to use. But so what we're going to do now is jump back out here. We're going to do our 109 inches up, snap our chalk line across, and then we'll be right back to show you that. All right, so we did our 109 inches from the back and did our chalk line clear coat, so you know it doesn't rub off. And then we set our laser up across that 109 inches chalk line, which comes right up onto the frame and gives us our 109 wheelbase. So that gets us to where we need to be with marking our floor, finding our center lines, and having the laser and get all that done. I hope I was able to clarify it a little bit better on this video, and it's not jumped around and jumbled like the other one, the past video was. After I watched it, I just wasn't happy with it. So, sorry it took me so long. I was down a week. Like I said, I don't know if it was COVID or flu or whatever, but it had me on the couch for a week. Like, share, subscribe, and then we're getting into the fabrication. In the next video, we're going to start building the actual links. Stay tuned for more build videos on the truck and our solid axle conversion. We are moving right along pretty fast, other than my week of COVID. So like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.